and I will say welcome to PLC II. It's Thursday. What is this day? April 16th. They're all starting to kind of blur together. The 2 p.m. PLC II class for April 16th. A few things on our agenda today. Let me share the screen with you to kind of show you what's going to happen. Maybe. There we go. We'll do a general welcome for each other, and we're in the midst of that now, but then we're going to go into some small group discussions. I'd asked you to kind of take a look at the Schlechte side of the cube, and I'll do a kind of a rehash on the cube here in just a second too. In your small groups, I'm going to ask you to talk about what you saw on videos that you watched in terms of learning with others and sense of audience. If you have time, you can talk about what you saw on the Rita Pierson video as well. I've actually got the questions all kind of laid out for you. I think that I didn't do that last week, and this probably will help you focus in your smaller groups. In the small groups, I'm going to ask you just to kind of break the ice, what's one activity that you've started since social distancing that you've really enjoyed? And I'll be curious to hear some of the answers to that too, because you know, you can only play so much Minecraft with your kids before you get a little sick of things. So you're also going to talk about examples that you saw of learning with others and sense of audience in the videos that you watched, and possibly some personal examples that you can think of those things, learning with others, sense of audience. And if you have time, the hot topic video kind of asks a central question. Rita Pierson, the woman who spoke in the video, contends that in order for students to learn, they must like their teacher. What are your thoughts on that, and why do you think that? And then we'll come back in a large group. I'll talk about what we'll do next week for the hot topic, and then we'll introduce the cube look for us for next week as well. That's the general plan for the day. Any questions or thoughts before we get to that? All right, so what we'll do then, one more time I'm going to share that screen so you can see where to find it. Those questions are available in the module that is called, I think it's Online Week 4. Shoot, now I got to go to the modules. Online Week 4, yep. So if you go to Online Week 4 module in your smaller groups here in just a second, click on that agenda for April 16th. That's where those questions are going to kind of fall out, okay? So we'll probably give you about just about 10 minutes in the small groups or so. And if you don't get to the hot topic video, that's okay. The important things to do would be to talk about learning with others and sense of audience to make sure that you're kind of on the same page with that. And I'm going to click to see the cube here. Can we see the cube? If I put that on the screen, are we okay seeing the cube? Okay. Remember that this is Antonetti's cube. You watched the video with Mrs. Baker, and Antonetti, this is not necessarily his research, but the brilliant thing that he did is he took 3 pretty cogent pieces of research and kind of smooshed them together so that if you use this cube when you design your lesson plans, which eventually you're going to have to do for the curriculum instruction class, you pick one thing from each side of this cube and try to build it into your lesson. Remember that we really consider that a pretty good lesson. And in this class in particular, we've been really asking you to look at the 8 engaging qualities of work according to Philip Schlechte. Now, what I noticed is that as I was kind of looking through some of the stuff that you turned in last week as far as things that you had observed, some of you talked about observing Marzano strategies in action, but remember that for the purposes of this class, we're asking you to actually just look at the stuff that's on the front of the cube and observe it in that way. So do keep that in mind as you're going through your observations for this week. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording now, and then I'll put you into your smaller groups. We'll come back, as I said, in about 10 minutes. I'll give you a 2-minute warning, and then I'll bring you back, and we'll try to process out what you saw in your groups, introduce ourselves to the next week's stuff, and then we'll kind of go from there. So I'm going to pause. I think we're back on. So, okay, so first question first, most important question. What are some things that you guys have picked up since the quarantine stuff has started that you actually enjoy doing now that you're kind of maybe stuck in your homes longer than you normally are? I mentioned that I'm on TikTok, although I deleted it off my phone because I just couldn't quite, I just didn't really think it was for me, you know? So I still have an account, although I don't know how to access it now that I don't have the app. My children have also introduced me to the world of Minecraft. If anybody plays Minecraft, I kind of like it, actually. I shouldn't probably admit that, but So those are two things that I've kind of picked up. One of them I've already put down. What are you guys doing? What's the word on the street? Besides crying in your room by yourself at night. Let's not do that.
I've been painting.
Painting? That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
My wife and kids have taken up painting. I have reaffirmed my desire to not be a painter, so I'm glad somebody's picking up the mantle. That's good.
I've been making these bracelets. So if you want one, just message me your address and I'll send you one.
Awesome. Thank you, Carson. That's pretty cool. I should also say that I've picked up my guitar for the first time in a long time again. So it's another thing that I'm doing, although I already did that before. So I just have more time now. And of course, just praying fervently for that we actually all the summer classes are online now. So hopefully we'll get to be face-to-face in the fall. That's my other thing to think about. I'm looking forward to seeing actual people on actual campuses in the fall. So the other thing then would be, what did you talk about in your groups in terms of, oh shoot, what were the two? Hang on, I need to go and look at make sure I'm saying the right stuff. Share the screen here. Learning with others and sense of audience. Were there groups that couldn't see eye to eye on what that actually meant, or for the most part, were you on the same page with what you saw in your videos? Learning with others and sense of audience, okay? This is a weird kind of the Zoom sessions and the small group sessions is a weird example of learning with others. I'm not sure ultimately how effective that it is, but it's kind of what we've got right now. So it will be interesting to kind of see how that works in the online format versus in reality format versus, well, this is reality, but versus in an actual classroom format. There's a lot of research out there that tells us that learning with others in some way, shape, or form is a way to engage students in what you're actually talking about, as opposed to just lecturing to them for 45 minutes at a time. So ways to process as a group, that's very important to allow for your kids in the classroom. Sense of audience too, kind of weighting something at the end, W-E-I-G-H-T, weighting something at the end with a presentation or with a letter that you write to somebody, or bringing in the big guns, bringing down the principal to have them present, or presenting to the school board. If you remember, we talked project-based learning in the in the curriculum and instruction class. The end of all project-based units has some sort of presentation that is done for an outside entity. So, weighting something like that at the end of a unit or the end of an assignment is kind of a big deal, and it a lot of times prompts a lot more student engagement because they know they're going to have to show their work to somebody. All right, let me share again. I've moved around a lot today. I'm currently in my bedroom, and my dog is on the bed, and she's like shifting around, so I hope that you can't hear her too much shifting around on the bed. What are we doing next? As far as the hot topic goes, I'm going to hold off on that. When we come back together next week, if I choose to do a hot topic, we'll do it on the fly during the day of. You guys have a lot on your plate anyway. To give you another video or something like that to watch, I don't want to do that anymore. So we'll hold off on that until next week. So what we'll do now is we'll take a look at the look fors for next week. Where to find them. Let me stop the share for just a moment. Actually, I'm not going to do that. I won't stop it. I'll just click back on the browser here. So next week, we're going to be taking a look at the front part of that cube again. And with Schlechty's information, we're going to take a look at emotional and intellectual safety and choice. And so again, when you click on this in the online week 4, you'll get the graphic organizer to identify qualities of engaging work. And it looks the same as the other graphic organizers that you've done. This week, you'll just fill in the blank emotional and intellectual safety and choice. And in the spirit of choice, what I've kind of thought about, I mean, you've watched the same 3 videos for the first 3 weeks of the course here. If you want to, you're welcome to go and find another video of a class in session on YouTube, or you can do it on TED Ed, or if you have access to other things that people have done, you can watch any video that you want as long as you can get the information that you need from it. The one thing I would ask, though, is if you choose to watch a video that's not linked to this course and to the course website, would you please put a link to it? Because I may actually just keep that link and use it for other classes later on too. So if you choose to watch a video that's not linked to the course, please provide the link so I can watch it. That's the trick for that. Intellectual and emotional safety and choice. Let me go over that fairly quickly so you can kind of get a sense of what it looks like. This document is available in the week 2 module. It just kind of runs through Schlechty's 8 qualities of engagement. And again, this week we're taking a look at number 3 on the list, emotional and intellectual safety, and number 3 and number 6, intellectual and emotional safety and choice. I mean, you can read this, but I'm going to go ahead and read it to you. Students are more engaged when they try tasks without fear of embarrassment, punishment, or implications that they are inadequate. Personal response activities that students must support with logic, reasoning, or explanation require more intellectual safety than answering a question that has only one right answer. So for instance, as a social studies teacher, I could ask a question that has a right answer. You know, what day did the first, what day was the first atomic bomb dropped on Japan? I'm pretty sure the answer is August 6, 1945. There's a right answer to that. And if you got the wrong answer, that's not the end of the world. You just learn the right answer. If you would have said August 7th, I would have said, unfortunately, it's August 6th, something like that. There's not a lot of risk-taking that's necessarily involved in the answer. If I asked a question related to that, which was, why do you think President Truman chose to have the bombs dropped on Japan? And why do you think that he chose to potentially kill 200,000 Japanese civilians, you know, something like that? The answer that you would have to that would be involving more of a risk on your part, because you would have to extrapolate from your own feelings and your own facts. And if I was to shut that down and tell you that that's a silly answer, that's dumb, you shouldn't answer it that way, the intellectual and emotional safety in my classroom essentially would be 0. And so what Schlechte is saying is that you've got to allow for student well-being and safety in the framework of a classroom, especially when you ask those tough questions like that. Because if they think you're going to shut them down, you're never going to get any responses. So that's emotional and intellectual safety. And the other component then would be choice. When students have some degree of control over what they're doing, they're more likely to feel committed to doing it. Doesn't mean that students should dictate school curriculum. Schools must distinguish between giving students choices in what they do and letting them choose what they will learn. Later on in my public school teaching career, if students came up to me and said that they didn't like the assignment, if they could give me a legit reason for an assignment they didn't like, I would say, okay, that's fine. You don't have to do that assignment, but here's the objective that we have to accomplish. What other ways can you accomplish this objective, and tell me that you know what you're supposed to know without doing that actual assignment. So sometimes I would let students redesign their own assignments. That's a framework of choice. I know some teachers give students a choice of maybe 2 or 3 ways to complete an objective. I know that you can do either questions 1, 3, 5, and 7, or questions 2, 4, 6, and 8. All those are ways to give students choice in the framework of a classroom. And so that's what we're talking about when you look at your videos this week. And again, you can use the videos that we provided you, but if you have other things in mind, if you want to go out on YouTube and find something else, that's great. You're welcome to do that. Just please give me a link so that I know what video that you're going to watch, so I can maybe keep those too. It's always good to have a repository of videos for students to watch if they need to for events like this. Okay, that's an awful lot to throw at you in just a few minutes. Any questions that you have for me related to stuff like that? Okay, I have 16 non-head bobs, so that's good, I think. What I will do is I'm going to stop the recording now, and you're free to head out. If you do have questions that you need to ask of me, I'll stay on until everybody's gone, and that way you can ask me one-on-one if you need to. But other than that, I'm going to stop the recording now.